is a daunting task, isn't it? The imposing blank page. So many options and so much to cover. Well, it doesn't have to be as daunting. Quick aside here, this is about campaign and adventure design and not world building. That's going to be a different video. If you've never GM'd before, the idea of predicting each and every twist and turn feels impossible. And you'd be right. You'll burn yourself out before you ever get started if you try to plan like that. All you really need to have prepared is the first session. You might have some ideas about where to go after that, but it's very insubstantial, which is a good place to be. You're not a human computer running a pre-programmed game through your brain out to the table. Being able to adjust and make things up on the fly is a core skill of GMing, and it is something that you will learn to develop. But let's jump into it. One of the first things I like to think about when I'm planning a campaign or adventure is theme. What's the theme I want to explore? Chaos versus law, man versus nature, how power corrupts, how greed turns people to exploit each other for profit. Can everyone be redeemed? Now, this might seem like a heady place to start a concept, but I find for me it helps me refine and focus what kinds of adventures and encounters I'm going to prepare. For example, if I want to focus on corruption, that points me to a number of spells, NPCs, monsters, magic items, alternate or house rules, and so on, that will enhance the theme, and more importantly, keep me from feeling overwhelmed by the sheer amount of possibilities. Worth noting here, your theme can and probably should change over the course of a campaign. In my experience, this is a useful place to start. You might find your theme from whatever book, movie, TV show that you've been interested in lately. There's a lot of great themes you can borrow and draw directly from in Dune, Star Wars, Andor, Arthurian myth. Find whatever speaks to you and put that in your game. Now, the next thing we want to look at is the antagonist. They should exemplify some part of your theme taken to an extreme. Think about how they will influence your setting. What sort of plans and influence do they have? What is their goal and how are they achieving it? The best antagonists in all of fiction always see themselves as the hero, so how do they justify their actions? From there, I like to lay out my villain's master plan. How exactly are they going to get the magic artifact or convince Parliament to give up all of their power? If all they want is destruction, how do they go about actually doing that? You don't have to have every detail planned out. A solid overview will be fantastic scaffolding for future adventures, and it will help you know how the villain is going to respond to the antics of your players. This might be me personally, but I find it easiest to adapt and improvise when I already know what the villain's plans are. It allows the player characters to be those meddling kids.
Meddling young fools. They gotten away with a king's ransom.
And cause problems as they are wont to do. The antagonist plans, whatever they are going to work perfectly until the characters get involved. They are the heroes, after all. It has the added benefit of making character choices have consequences, impacts they can see on the world. This is fantastic for buy-in and makes the world feel more alive. As a bonus, you've already got an idea for how whatever choice they make is going to play out because you know the villain's master plans. You know what they have access to, the limits of their abilities. Remember, you two are playing many characters. Based on what our antagonist knows about the player characters, what would they do? Would they attack the heroes directly, try to turn them to their side, toy with them a little bit, or just send some folks to get rid of them for cheap? This is not the full prep for your campaign, but it is the basic framework, so let's take a step back and make an example. Let's say I'm setting up a D&D campaign based on that theme of corruption that I mentioned earlier. Though that is going to affect the flavor of individuals and monsters and NPCs, I don't have to worry about that just yet. What I want to focus on right now is the antagonist and the representation of our central theme. For the sake of argument, let's call our antagonist Jim the Wizard. Don't get too hung up on the names, they're very easy to change and it's a fantastic time suck while you're planning. You can always change them after. While building out a background for Jim, I could draw examples from fiction. Anakin Skywalker, Harvey Dent in The Dark Knight, Arthas Menethil from World of Warcraft, all of whom started off with good intentions but were corrupted by their desires. Maybe Jim decided to become a powerful wizard to protect his homeland, but his desire to protect that homeland drew him to seek out more and more power, leading to his eventual corruption. Maybe he believes that the only way to protect his homeland is to destroy all other lands, or try to gather all the magic in the world to him so they can never be conquered. Maybe he believes that the only way to protect his homeland is to destroy all of their neighboring countries, or to draw all the magic in the world to him to make sure it can't be weaponized against his people. Already from that background, we have a few ideas about how Jim might go about his schemes. Maybe he's gathering a set of magic artifacts, one of which your player characters already have. Maybe he's cozying up to the king to become the real power behind the throne. Or he's already performed his coup, and is starting to press the borders of surrounding nations with an army of conscripted peasants and criminals. Or maybe Jim sends his grubby little minions for the artifact that your characters just tactfully rehomed to their inventory after months and months of tracking it down. You could even start the campaign with them escaping the dungeon with the artifact already in tow. The goal here is to entangle and intrigue your party until they cannot ignore what is happening around them. As you continue working through the campaign, be sure to tie in the character's backstory elements into the adventure as well. Lots of these things can be done with micro adjustments.
Micro adjustments, if you will.
Say you already had plans for a bandit encounter. Maybe the leader of the bandits is a long-lost childhood friend of a party member. Maybe the shopkeeper accidentally reveals a secret tattoo that ties them to the organization that killed one of the player character's siblings. These are fantastic opportunities to turn otherwise functional NPCs into core parts of the story and ingratiate the characters further. Remember, again, these are the main characters. They are essential to the story. The more that it feels like they're the only ones who could save the day, the better. Well, how many adventures do you plan for this? Or hell, for the entire campaign? Well, let's take those in reverse order. I'm of the mind that shorter is better, especially for your first campaign. Longer campaigns have a greater chance of puttering out because there's more chances for life to get in the way. A 5 to 8 session campaign is plenty long, has the ability to be finished, and then perhaps open up to new adventures or continuing the same plot forward again. Or even starting something completely fresh. Do whatever works for your group, but be mindful of overwhelming them with commitment. A game every week for just 6 sessions is a lot easier of a sell than a campaign that continues for 3 years, even if that initial 6-session adventure grows into that 3-year campaign. You can also alternate between a few sessions of your longer campaign and something shorter. As for how I like to actually prep, I'm a medium-light kind of person. After the first session, I'll keep things adaptable. If I've got a hunch the player characters are going to visit a specific person or location, I'll have that ready. But overall, I find mapping out every possibility to just be a way to drive yourself crazy. Think about it this way. All those published modules you see on the game store shelves, they're 200 pages. A whole multi-year campaign can fit into 200 pages or less. Not because everything is predetermined and planned, but because there's enough information there that when the players decide to go off script, you can wing it. It's also a good spot to look for third-party expansions and modules and alternate rules that will help develop the theme of your campaign, whatever direction it happens to go. This also lets your campaigns be just a little bit more sandboxy. If the players decided to go off the path you had planned, you can still easily imagine how their actions are going to impact and influence other things happening in your setting. I find this makes for much better prep than a linear path where you kind of panic when they do something unexpected. And if the characters happen to find themselves with multiple leads after a session, try to get an answer of where they're going to go. I have made the mistake and had to prepare 2 adventures for the next session. Depending on which way they went, do not recommend. So let's circle back to Jim once more. For our campaign with Jim the Wizard, I wouldn't plan all the way up to the final fight where they're going to encounter and finally defeat him, especially if he's already pretty far along in his plan. Perhaps at the end of this short 6-session campaign adventure, the party will end up fighting Derek the Warlock, one of Jim's chief lieutenants. Derek's out here managing the day-to-day plans and operations of Jim's greater machinations. Derek probably has pretty similar motivations to Jim, or at the very least he's getting paid well enough, which is going to tell me how he might interact with the party, and the sort of actions he will take on Jim's behalf. With the beginning and end of this campaign cycle set, I can start to work out some space in the middle, maybe a blighted garden or some local ruins, something that feels cool. It really doesn't have to be more specific than these 2-word concept phrases. They're just there to throw out for your players to grab onto if they want. And if your players aren't interested, congrats. You just saved yourself hours of prep. And sometimes your players will choose to go someplace where you hadn't actually prepared anything just yet. This is where I can teach you one of the secret GM techniques passed down from generation to generation. You ready? Lean in. Go to the bathroom. Quick little bathroom break. 10 minutes. Just Google something up real quick. Sometimes that's all it really takes. And as you continue to GM and build up your skills and comfortability with the system and what your players expect, you'll figure out your own level of prep, how much you like to have done. And of course, learn how to wing it when things suddenly change. Remember, as the GM, you know all the secrets of the world. Anything that hasn't been told to the players is subject to change. They don't have to know that. Well, I think that's just about all the time we have. If you have any questions, comments, or problems that you'd like for us to talk about, you can leave them in the comments below, or you can find us on Blue Sky, at Biscuit Wolf Games, or you can send us an email at biscuitwolfgames@gmail. You can also find some of our own supplements at our itch.io and on DriveThruRPG under the Biscuit Wolf banner.